What if I told you the 80s hid more alien-style copycats than anyone remembers? Movies that borrowed the idea of a crew, a creature, and a tight metal hallway, but twisted it into something stranger, cheaper, or surprisingly clever. Some were bold experiments, some were wild accidents, and a few turned out way better than anyone expected. Stick around, because one title in this list quietly outperformed its own reputation without anyone noticing. Number 20. The Terror Within, 1989. The Terror Within opens with a sharp idea. Humanity has moved underground after a global disaster, thinking they escaped danger, only to discover that a new threat is already waiting in the shadows. The survivors call them gargoyles, towering creatures created by changes in the outside environment. What makes this entry so gripping is the way it blends a siege story with slow dread. The bunker is tight, the hallways feel squeezed, and every echo sounds like something creeping closer. When one of the creatures makes it inside, the entire underground community shifts into panic mode. You see fear, strategy, failed attempts, and rising tension as people try to contain something that moves faster than expected. What keeps this movie on repeat lists is its tone. It never rushes, never tries to outshine bigger productions, but it understands atmosphere better than many of its peers. There is a grim charm in watching a small group make desperate choices, knowing the outside world is no safer. The Terror Within ends up feeling like a stripped-down cousin to Alien, but one that uses its limitations as an advantage. For fans of creature stories that push survival over spectacle, this is a quiet standout from the decade. Number 19. Dead Space, 1989. Dead Space begins with a familiar setup, but it delivers it with that classic late 80s VHS energy. A research station orbiting a distant planet sends a distress signal, and when help arrives, the crew discovers a strange organism that mutates into something unstoppable. It is a clear nod to Forbidden World, but this version brings its own flavor, leaning heavily into bright lighting, sealed doors, and frantic lab scenes, where everything is one mistake away from disaster. The charm of Dead Space lies in its direct approach. It wastes no time building unnecessary subplots. Instead, it focuses on a creature that changes shape, mood, and behavior every few scenes. You get that unpredictable rhythm, where the characters slowly understand they are not dealing with a simple organism, but something learning as it grows. The movie plays its low budget confidently, using fog, lights, and creative angles to hide what it cannot show. By the end, Dead Space becomes a full sprint, constantly pushing the characters into tighter corners, which gives it that old-school sci-fi chaos feel. It may not have the polish of major releases, but it absolutely captures the spirit of 80s. Creature thrillers. If you want a fast, pulpy ride that understands exactly what it is, Dead Space delivers. Number 18. Split Second, 1989. Split Second takes the Alien formula and throws it into a completely different setting. Instead of distant planets or deep space, you are dropped into a flooded future city where rain never stops, lights flicker over wet streets, and a mysterious creature hunts people without leaving much behind. The story follows a worn-down investigator who believes something non-human is responsible, but no one around him takes the idea seriously. That disbelief becomes the spark that pushes the movie into strange, stylish territory. The creature itself hides more than it shows, using speed and dark corners to keep the tension high. Every time you think the movie will reveal too much, it shifts attention back to its atmosphere. The flooded city becomes a character on its own, with pools of water reflecting danger and underground tunnels turning into silent hunts. There is a blend of sci-fi and noir here, something gritty but still playful. What makes Split Second worth revisiting is how confidently it commits to its world. It is not trying to be Alien, but it borrows the idea of a predator that stays one step ahead. The final showdown pays off the slow build, giving fans of creature mysteries exactly the kind of payoff they hope for. It is messy, moody, and strangely memorable. Number 17. Xtro, 1983. Xtro is one of those cult titles that earns its reputation the moment you start watching. It begins with an abduction and then jumps forward in time, bringing back a changed figure who does not return empty-handed. Instead of copying Alien directly, Xtro takes the idea of transformation and pushes it into dreamlike, unpredictable territory. You never quite know what the next scene will reveal, and that is what makes it so magnetic. Every moment feels slightly off-center in the best possible way. Strange creatures appear, everyday objects behave oddly, and people confront things they cannot rationalize. The movie leans on practical effects that look handmade but weirdly convincing, giving it a raw personality missing from many clean sci-fi productions of the time. There is an energy here that mixes dread, imagination, and emotional weight. The story moves between quiet family scenes and sudden bursts of strange phenomena, building tension not through loud moments, but through the uneasy feeling that something impossible is unfolding. Xtro may not follow typical structure, but that becomes its greatest strength. It is a bold reminder that 80s sci-fi did not just imitate Alien. Sometimes it reimagined the whole playbook. Anyone searching for something unpredictable from the decade will find this one unforgettable. Number 16. Xtro 2, The Second Encounter, 1988. Xtro 2 shifts the setting from homes and fields to an underground research facility, bringing it much closer to the classic Alien template. Scientists experiment with dimensional portals, hoping to explore new frontiers, but instead, they bring back a being that sees everything in its path as a target. What follows is a tight corridor thriller, where flashing alarms, sealed doors, and radio calls build a sense of rising urgency. The strength of Xtro 2 is its confidence in pacing. The movie opens with energy, slows just enough to build curiosity, and then unleashes its creature moments with sharp timing. It has that late 80s aesthetic of blinking panels and metallic hallways, but it uses them to reinforce tension rather than distract from it. Every movement of the creature feels like it shifts the entire base into survival mode. There is also a fun mix of military and science characters, each reacting differently to danger. Some rush forward, others hide behind equipment, and a few try to outthink the situation. This variety gives the story more layers than expected. By the end, Xtro 2 proves itself as a clean, focused entry in the era of alien-inspired films. It knows exactly what fans expect and delivers it without hesitation. Number 15. Xtro 3, Watch the Skies, 1989. Xtro 3 shifts the action far from laboratories and homes, sending a squad of trained fighters to a quiet island that once held a secret military program. They arrive expecting a routine mission, but the moment they uncover abandoned structures and strange markings, the story moves into a new kind of alien-inspired tension. The island itself feels alive, with rusted metal, dark caves, and old machinery that suggests someone tried to hide something that never truly left. The creature in this entry is not loud or showy. It stalks from a distance, watching the team before revealing itself in bursts of movement. This gives the film a patient energy, where every discovery escalates the mystery. The group begins to argue, clues appear in unexpected places, and the isolated setting pushes everyone toward desperation. The story uses its jungle backdrop to create sudden jumps in tone, shifting from silence to panic in seconds. What makes Xtro 3 worth revisiting is its mix of classic 80s creature tension and outdoor adventure. It blends the suspense of Alien with the atmosphere of a survival thriller. The final stretch brings all the clues together in a way that rewards the slow build. It is a quieter entry in the franchise, but also one of the most focused. Number 14. Alien Predator, 1987. Alien Predator begins with a simple setup. Three friends on a road trip pass near a small town that recently hosted a space experiment gone wrong. Strange things start happening. The town looks half abandoned, and the group slowly uncovers that something from above arrived long before they did. Instead of jumping straight into action, the movie builds a strange atmosphere with quiet streets, blinking signs, and hints that the locals are not acting like themselves. The creature at the center of the story is unpredictable, changing its form and behavior as the group gets closer to the truth. That constant shift gives the movie an edge, because you never know what kind of encounter comes next. The film borrows the paranoia of 80s classics and mixes it with a small-town mystery, creating a blend that feels both familiar and fresh. There is also an unexpected sense of humor that breaks the tension at just the right moments. Alien Predator thrives on the charm of its rough edges. It is not polished, but it carries the adventurous spirit of movies made for late-night viewing. The final act ramps things up with bigger reveals and tense confrontations, proving that even modest productions from the decade could still deliver memorable creature thrills. Number 13. Terror Vision, 1986. Terror Vision takes the Alien formula and drops it into the most colorful living room ever put on film. Instead of dark corridors or faraway planets, the story centers on a family whose new satellite dish accidentally beams a strange creature into their home. This monster does not sneak through vents or crawl behind walls. It bursts into scenes with loud personality, feeding on electronics and showing a strange affection for chaos. The movie leans into its comedy just as much as its creature moments. Bright colors fill every corner, characters behave like exaggerated versions of 80's culture, and the monster itself feels almost playful at times. But beneath the humor, there is a clever rhythm that keeps things moving. Each family member reacts differently, from curiosity to panic, creating a chain of moments that feel both unpredictable and entertaining. Terror Vision is one of the rare alien-inspired movies that embraces fun over fear. It knows it cannot compete with large productions, so it does the opposite and leans into its quirks. The creature effects are surprisingly lively, the pacing is fast, and the ending pulls off a twist that fits the wild ride perfectly. This is the kind of cult movie that grows better every time you revisit it. Number 12. Evils of the Night, 1985. Evils of the Night blends two ideas at once. On the surface, it feels like a small-town thriller where college students pass through a remote area without realizing something unusual is happening. But behind the scenes, a group of strange visitors has been secretly taking people for mysterious experiments. That dual-layer structure gives the film a slow climb, where normal scenes shift into odd events and then into full tension as the visitors reveal their true intentions. The film creates atmosphere through open fields, quiet nights, and sudden disappearances that leave characters wondering where their friends have gone. The visitors themselves move with an eerie calm, making their interactions unsettling without relying on loud moments. Their hidden plan remains one of the most unusual twists in 80's alien-style storytelling, giving the film a voice that is distinct from its peers. Evils of the Night thrives on surprise. You think you know where it is headed, then the story reveals a new angle that reframes everything. For all its simplicity, the movie captures the feeling of being watched in a place far from help. Its final stretch ties the tension together in a sharp, memorable way. It is a strange but fun piece of 80's sci-fi that still has charm today. Number 11. The Intruder Within, 1981. The Intruder Within is one of the earliest television attempts to recreate the Alien formula, and it succeeds by focusing on mood over spectacle. The story takes place on an isolated oil platform far from land, where the crew drills too deep and awakens something that never should have been disturbed. The creature begins as a tiny presence, almost easy to overlook, before growing into something far more dangerous as the hours pass. Because the film was made for television, it relies heavily on suspense instead of explicit scenes. Long shadows cover the narrow walkways, pipes hiss in the background, and the crew moves with caution as they try to understand what they brought to the surface. Each discovery pushes the tension higher, especially when they realize the creature is not just growing, but adapting. What makes The Intruder Within stand out is its commitment to atmosphere. The platform setting feels like the perfect place for a creature story, surrounded by open water and cut off from the world. Even without the budget of larger productions, the film uses sound, lighting, and pacing to create a steady sense of danger. It is a reminder that even early 80's television could deliver strong sci-fi chills. Number 10. Star Crystal, 1986. Star Crystal starts like many space thrillers of the decade. A research team finds something strange during an expedition, brings it back to their ship, and quickly realizes they made a mistake. At first glance, it seems like a direct alien clone, complete with dark corridors and a crew that is not fully prepared for danger. But the movie takes a surprising turn when the creature begins to change, revealing far more intelligence and intention than anyone expects. Much of the film unfolds inside a cramped ship filled with blinking panels and narrow passageways that amplify the tension. Every encounter with the creature feels different, as if it is learning how the humans think. That evolving dynamic gives Star Crystal a quiet unpredictability that sets it apart from other titles of its time. Instead of leaning only on fear, the movie gradually shifts toward deeper ideas, creating a blend of suspense and reflection that few viewers see coming. The low budget becomes part of its charm, giving it that handmade 80's feel. Star Crystal may start as a familiar chase story, but it ends as something warmer and more unusual, It stays memorable because it dares to move in a direction most creature films would never attempt. Number 9. Creature, 1985. Creature is one of the sharpest alien-style films of the decade, taking the core idea of a stranded crew and giving it a unique twist. When a team of explorers lands on a distant moon, they discover the remains of an earlier expedition and quickly realize something survived the disaster. The creature, hidden in dark corners and underground chambers, uses its victims in a way that adds a clever layer of tension. The result is a story that feels familiar but never lazy. One of the film's strongest elements is its atmosphere. The landscapes look barren and cold, and the interiors of the base feel harsh and utilitarian, as if nothing there was ever meant to be comfortable. The creature itself uses clever techniques that keep the crew confused, allowing the story to play with trust, fear, and uncertainty. The appearance of a lone survivor adds another layer, anchoring the plot with unpredictable behavior and a sense that something is being held back. Creature is not afraid to take itself seriously, and that commitment pays off. The pacing builds steadily, the confrontations land with impact, and the final escape has a satisfying intensity. It is a standout example of 80s sci-fi, made with resourceful imagination. Number 8. The Being, 1983. The Being unfolds in a small town struggling with strange disappearances and unexplained events. Instead of astronauts or faraway planets, this story pulls the alien formula into everyday surroundings, giving the tension a grounded feel. The danger emerges from a hidden place, growing stronger as it moves through dark tunnels, empty streets, and quiet corners the townsfolk overlook. As more people vanish, the mystery deepens, and the town's leaders try to explain everything away, creating a slow-burning sense of denial. The movie uses misty nights, dim headlights, and deserted alleys to build tension. The creature at the center of the story remains blurry for most of the runtime, which makes its sudden appearances more effective. The focus remains on slow discovery rather than constant action, giving each clue a weight that pushes the story forward. Characters begin piecing together the truth, but by then, the creature has grown too strong to ignore. What makes The Being enjoyable is its mix of creature tension and small-town mystery. It feels like a lost drive-in gem, balancing moments of panic with quieter scenes that reveal how fear spreads through a community. It never pretends to be bigger than it is, but it delivers a steady, satisfying atmosphere from start to finish. Number 7. The Dark Side of the Moon, 1989. The Dark Side of the Moon takes viewers to a repair crew drifting near Earth's moon after their ship loses power. What begins as a simple malfunction slowly becomes something far more unsettling. Strange readings appear on the monitors, equipment behaves oddly, and the crew discovers an abandoned shuttle with no sign of its passengers. The silence inside that shuttle sets the tone for the rest of the film, creating a sense of isolation that only deepens as events unfold. The movie excels at tension through stillness. Long moments without dialogue allow the environment itself to build suspense. As the crew investigates, they discover that something invisible is influencing their ship, causing fear and confusion to rise. The film uses darkness and shadows to suggest danger without showing it too early, giving the story a patient rhythm that keeps you leaning forward. By the time the creature's presence becomes clear, the situation has already spiraled into panic. The final act pulls together all the hints, creating a showdown that feels both eerie and dramatic. The Dark Side of the Moon is one of those overlooked late 80s gems that proves a small cast and a tight setting can still produce strong sci-fi tension. Number 6. Shocking Dark, 1989. Shocking Dark is often remembered as one of the boldest homages to the Alien franchise, and it wears that influence with pride. Set in a futuristic city overtaken by mysterious creatures, the story follows a specialized team sent into underground tunnels to investigate why communication has stopped. From the moment they enter the dark passageways, the movie embraces a fast, energetic pace that never slows down. Every turn reveals new clues, close calls, and hidden dangers. The team dynamics bring a lively personality to the story. Some characters rush into danger with confidence, while others rely on humor to balance fear. This mix adds charm, giving the film an identity even while it echoes familiar sci-fi beats. The creatures move quickly and unpredictably, forcing the team into a constant battle between advancing and retreating as the tunnels shift from exploration to survival. Shocking Dark stands out because of its enthusiasm. It is unashamedly wild, loaded with quick turns, and filled with that unmistakable 80s style, where everything feels slightly exaggerated in a fun way. Despite modest resources, it puts heart into each scene and offers a finale that pulls together its strongest elements. It remains a memorable watch for anyone who enjoys energetic sci-fi adventures. Number 5, Night of the Creeps, 1986. Night of the Creeps begins with a meteor flashing across the sky and landing near a quiet college town. What seems like a harmless light turns into a chain reaction once small slug-like creatures emerge and begin invading people through the simplest contact. From that moment, the movie locks into a playful rhythm, mixing comedy with suspense as the creatures turn their hosts into fast-moving threats. The story grows larger with each encounter, turning a campus night into a full crisis. The strength of this film is its personality. It knows the 80s horror style inside and out, and uses humor not to soften the story, but to make the tension feel sharper. The characters, especially the determined officer who has his own history with the creatures, add emotional weight and unexpected warmth. Each discovery raises the stakes, showing how a single event can shift into chaos. Night of the Creeps uses bright lighting, sharp dialogue, and constantly moving scenes to keep the viewer alert. The final sequence ties everything together with a burst of creativity that still earns praise today. It is a lively, inventive entry in 80s sci-fi that understands the alien formula and plays with it in refreshing ways. Number 4, Without Warning, 1980. Without Warning opens deep in the woods, where sudden disappearances hint that something unusual is stalking the area. A group of young campers, a local bar owner, and a skeptical deputy soon discover the truth. A visitor from beyond has arrived, moving silently among the trees, and using strange floating discs that attach themselves to people with sudden force. This idea alone sets the film apart, giving it a new type of tension that blends creature fear with outdoor suspense. As the survivors try to escape, the story becomes a mix of mystery, chase scenes, and rising panic. The setting plays a major role, with quiet forests turning into unpredictable traps. The movie builds its tension through stillness and sound, letting the environment increase the fear instead of relying on constant action. The creature itself remains hidden for large portions of the film, which makes each brief appearance more effective. Without Warning stands out not only because it predates larger movies with similar ideas, but also because it captures the feeling of being pursued in a place where help is far away. It is simple, focused, and unexpectedly clever. The film holds up as one of the decade's most inventive low-budget sci-fi thrillers. Number 3, The Kindred, 1987. The Kindred begins with a scientist who returns to his family home to uncover the truth behind his mother's final research project. Instead of simple notes, he discovers evidence of unusual experiments involving genetics, transformation, and forms of life that grow far beyond expectations. What follows is a blend of family mystery, laboratory tension, and creature moments that grow stranger each time the story reveals a new detail. The movie excels in practical effects, creating creatures that look handmade but incredibly alive. Each scene that features these creations carries a sense of discovery and nervous fascination. The characters must navigate both emotional memories and scientific puzzles, creating a layered narrative that sets The Kindred apart from typical 80s creature films. The transformation scenes stand out as some of the most imaginative of the decade. By the final act, the house becomes a battlefield of secrets, experiments, and revelations that reshape everything the characters believed. The Kindred shines because it is not just a creature story, but also a tale of family history and scientific ambition gone too far. It delivers suspense, heart, and originality in equal measure. Number 2, The Eliminators, 1986. The Eliminators introduces a strange mix of ideas that somehow work together. The story begins with a scientist creating advanced hybrid designs, blending human traits with mechanical parts. When one of these designs escapes after realizing the truth of its creation, the journey leads to a team-up between the hybrid, a smart historian, a playful guide, and an inventive mechanic. Together, they face a path filled with traps, puzzles, and more unusual designs left behind by the main experimenter. The film moves briskly, with each location offering something new, from rivers to hidden bases. Even though it is not a direct Alien-style clone, it uses the same spirit of unexpected evolution and experimental creations. The hybrid character brings emotional depth, especially when facing creations that mirror earlier stages of the same process. The movie embraces adventure, humor, and suspense without losing focus. What makes the Eliminators memorable is how boldly it mixes genres. It brings creature elements, action moments, and lighthearted scenes into one steady journey. The final confrontation ties every thread together, proving that even unusual 80s films can deliver something unique. It remains a charming example of imagination leading the story rather than budget. Number 1. CHUD, 1984. CHUD takes the alien formula into a city's underworld, turning tunnels and sewer passages into the perfect setting for slow-moving fear. When people begin disappearing from the streets of New York, a photographer and a shelter worker start asking questions, leading them to clues that point underground. There, hidden in the shadows, live mutated figures shaped by long-term exposure to unsafe conditions. Each appearance builds tension through movement, echoing footsteps, and dimly lit passageways. The film uses the city itself as a character. Street grates glow with rising mist. Abandoned corners hold unanswered questions, and every ladder leading underground feels like a door to a silent threat. The story unfolds in layers, showing how different groups discover the truth from different angles. Officials offer explanations that do not match the evidence, giving the film a quiet sense of pressure as the characters push for answers. CHUD succeeds because it mixes creature suspense with social mystery. It is not only about danger in the dark, but also about what happens when people ignore growing problems. The final act ties its themes together with a tense reveal that still earns attention. It is a strong finish to the list, and a perfect reminder that 80s sci-fi had depth even in low-budget corners. 80s creature films were not just copies of Alien. They were experiments, bold guesses, and small productions that dared to play with big ideas. Some leaned into fear, others into humor, and a few still surprise first-time viewers today. If you enjoyed this dive, share your thoughts, send your own pics, or tell me which title shocked you the most. There are always more hidden gems waiting, and one might be closer than you think.